Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
We are from Ed Group. We would like to present our presentation. Today is about macro and micro evaluation of test-based teaching. Before we show presentation, let me introduce member our group. The first presenter will be given by me, and the second will given by Sarila Mawati Fajrin, and the third will given by Putri Alia Reza, and the fourth will be given by Muhammad Dani Al-Aziz. Before we show our presentation, let's sing Basmalah together.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Okay, the first presenter will be present by me. Please, next slide. Okay, introduction. TBLT is based on a view of language learning that claims that and second language is best learned through learners' effort to communicate with it. Central to an understanding of TBLT is the concept of task. Therefore, we will begin by definition of this pedagogic construct. Next. Various definitions of a test have been provided. See AL-Aziz 203, 4 to 5. Various definitions of a test have been provided, but most of these indicate that for a language teaching activity to be a test, it must satisfy the following criteria. The first, the primary focus should be on meaning. The second, there should be some kind of gap. Learners should largely have to rely on their own resources, linguis, linguis, linguistic and non-linguistic in order to complete the activity. And the third, there is a clearly defined outcome other than the use of language. Next slide, please. And the test can be distinguished in a number of ways. The first is they can be unconfused or they can be unfocused or focused. And the second test can also be input providing and or output from prompting. And the last is tests can have closed or open outcomes. Okay, that's all for me. The next is the second presenter will be present by Sarira Mawati Fajrin. Time is yours.
Thank you, moderator. And now I will explain about approaches to evaluating TBLT. TBLT is increasingly attracting the attention of research and teacher educator. The language teaching approach, arguably a different method, extensively in the second language acquisition. As reflected in the TBLT book, challenging the mainstream view of language teaching in that it is not systematic attempt to teach a bit of language bit by bit, as in approach based on a structural syllabus. Therefore, TBLT has been intensively evaluated and criticalized by teaching and educators who support and approaches that involve more direct interventional in learning. In fact, there have been a number of published studies reporting on the such effort to implemented in the different instructors setting. Okay, next. Macro evaluation. The TBLT empirical evaluation in macro in nature, that is, they have in space investigate all courses based on the assignment. There is also a need for a more micro evaluation in which is the application of specific tests is studied. Macro evaluation can be divided as an evaluation that attempt to answer in or to following two questions. The first is how effective and efficient in the program or the project fulfill it is the purpose. Or the second, in what way can the program or the project be scaled up? And the next, there is three material in the curriculum material, which is the end can be broke down into consideration. There is material, teaching, teacher, and student. Next. Microevaluation. Microevaluation is characterized by a narrow focus on certain aspect of curriculum program administration. Each of the curricula and administrative aspect mentioned above provide microevaluation. Thus, in this case of the teacher, can focus on the type of question that the teacher asks in a lesson. In the case of learner, one might focus on which learner are productively participating in a lesson. Okay, that's all from me. I'll bring it back to moderator.
Okay, thank you, Sarira Mawati Fajrin. And the next presenter will be present by Putri Alia Reza. Putri Alia Reza, time is yours.
Okay, thank you. I will explain about macro-evaluation of test-based teaching. Reza and Davis conclude that the result of the evaluation support the claim that task-based instruction produce significantly different learning from focused instruction, and that this is reflected in the task-based learner superior acquisition of structures that have not been explicitly thought, and also in their ability to deploy what they have learned more readily. Okay, next. That this evaluation studies has had two general aim. The first is to identify teachers' perception of attitudes to the task-based teaching, and the second is to examine how the teachers implemented TBLT in their different teaching contexts. Okay, next. The evaluation of task-based teaching has a little attention to the actual teaching materials used in the course. For example, according to the Butler 2005, noted that when the teacher employed the same communicative activities, the actual activities that the studies engaged in were often very different depending on the motives and the goals that the teacher set for such activities. And the second is from according to the Coughlin and Duff, 1994. A clear distinction needs to be made between tasks. For example, the actual materials that comprise the work plan for the activity, and the activity, for example, the learner behavior that answers when learning from. And the third is Carlos 2004, recruited the teachers he investigated had mixed and sometimes confused notion and what the task involved. And the last is from McDonald and Jacob Monko, 2007. One of the problem they identified concerns how to interlink the task-based material, specifically developed for the university level course. They evaluated with the materials from a commercial textbook. The main concern of all the macro evaluation was the extent to which task-based teaching was implementable in the different teaching classes. That's all from me. I'll bring it back to moderator.
Okay, thank you, Putri Alia. And next, the last presenter will be present by Muhammad Daniel Aziz. Muhammad Daniel Aziz, time is yours.
Okay, thank you to the moderator. And I will explain about micro-evaluation of task-based teaching. As with micro-evaluation of tasks can be directed at accountability or improvement. In the case of accountability, the evaluator will need to investigate to what extent the task achieves the aim set out for it. Micro-evaluation can involve the collection of different types of information. And there are three types for that. The first type is information regarding the learner's opinions about the task. Second one is information about how the task was performed. And the last one is information about what learning took place as a result of performing the task. Corresponding to this type of information are three different approaches to evaluating tasks. The first one is a student-based evaluation. The second one is a response-based evaluation, like where the evaluator seeks to determine whether the task elicited the performance processes and outcome intended. And the last one is a learning-based evaluation, like where the evaluator investigates whether the task has resulted in any learning. And the next material is procedure for conducting a micro-evaluation of a task. And there are 5 points for procedure for conducting micro-evaluation of tasks. The first one is the starting point is a description of the task in terms of its objective. The next step is to plan the evaluation by deciding on the objective and purpose. Example is accountability or development. The scope of the evaluation. Example is whether the evaluation will simply focus on whether the intended benefits were achieved or whether there will also unexpected benefits. And who will conduct the evaluation, like the teacher or some outsider. The timing, whether the evaluation is formative, involving collecting data during the progress of the task, or summative, where data is collected only on completion of the task. And the last one for point is the types of information to be collected. Example is relating to whether the evaluation is students, response, or learning based. The data for the evaluation are collected, and the next point is the data are analyzed, and the last one point is conclusion and recommendation need to be made. Okay. The next material is the process of material evaluation. The first one by Simons in 1997. Simons evaluated an unfocused information gap task with a close outcome in a partial replication of Yule and McDonald's study. The task was performed in pairs. It required students to be described a route marked on a map so that student B could draw in the road on his or her map. Second one by Freeman in 2007. Freeman set out to evaluate a dictogloss task. This required students to listen to a listening text 9 sentences long on the subject of obesity. And the last one is by Yuan in 1997. Yuan examined two decision-making tasks, like unfocused tasks with open outcomes. Yuan was interested in investigating the effect of one implementation variable, pre-task planning. That's all for me. Thank you very much. I'll bring it back to the moderator.
Okay, thank you, Muhammad Daniel Aziz. And that's all from us. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Salam warahmatullahi